You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Talk Star Wars is a production of Emotionally 14. For fantastic podcasts, video series, blog posts, and much more, visit us on the web at emotionally14.com and enjoy content for the permanently teenaged. And welcome to Talk Star Wars, episode 175. I'm your host, as always, Rob Wade, and I am joined by my near-constant compatriots, the C-3PO to my R2-D2, or the other way around, depending on how you see it, Brad Harmer-Barnes.
Woo!
Hello there.
How's everyone? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, talking, starring, warsing, all the prerequisites for being on the show are covered.
All the stuff. All the things.
Stuff.
Yeah. That's nice.
Chatting Star Trek, talking Star Wars.
It was a rejected name for the Crazy Train. All the stuff. It wasn't.
I like it.
I don't know if I ever actually came up with any other names apart from. I think I just thought of Crazy Train and stuck with it.
Yeah, the best titles are the ones that come to you straight off the bat.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly the ones that you get. Sometimes titles will come to you when you're writing something, when you're working on something. Yeah, that's going to stick.
Yeah.
The ones you have to work out, I find you generally end up not liking.
Yeah, or you just maybe there's like that kind of lingering resentment for it. It's like, it wouldn't have been my first choice, even though you didn't have a better idea. But you kind of see it as like, it's the name's fault. Yeah, it's not fair.
I think I like the titles of one of my books.
Try and guess which one, kids. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
What's new?
What's new? I finished writing a new book this week, which is pretty cool for me. I'm going to be self-publishing this one. So watch that space. It's coming up very soon. So I'm just spitting and polishing on that and talking to a couple of artists about cover art and stuff. And this is the first time I've self-published anything, so excellent. It's a whole new adventure.
That sounds very exciting. Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to doing something new. Yeah. Filmed Firewind ready this week. We unboxed Bosk and Sabine, and man, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look forward to unboxing and review of them because Bosk punches holes in things. He's terrifying.
Nice. Well, that's kind of what you want from Bosk.
He's got regen. It's the first time we've seen someone be able to regen in Legion.
Oh, okay, nice. Well, I'd be all right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm going to wait and I'm going to watch the video.
Yeah,
on
that's what everyone should
on the E14 YouTube channel, like everybody should when it comes. Totally. I think that's fair to say. Yeah. Otherwise, much going on, or just the usual?
I finished Pirate's Price, the Star Wars novel about Hondo, Han, and Chewie having an adventure.
Where have I seen that recently?
My house. It's I posted it on my Facebook.
Oh, that might be it.
I have a little Facebook album of books I finish reading each year. Which is, with the advent of the Facebook Memories thing, is actually really nice because every now and again they'll pop up and you go, I remember reading that. So it's a fun thing to do, and sometimes people chime in or ask recommendations and stuff, so that's why I do it. It was a perfectly enjoyable young reader novel. It's narrated by Hondo as well, and the writer totally nails the character.
Nice.
And Hondo's his love to hate doesn't sound right for Hondo, but you love to hate him, I guess. And I'm just going to end up saying like an 80s power ballad if I keep going. And the characterization of Han, it felt very much like an Alden Ehrenreich Han, which is what it's supposed to be going on the artwork.
Nice.
So no, it was really, really good fun. But it does mean I've finished the timeline. I'm having to go back all the way to finish my timeline crawl. So I'm going back to Jedi Lost. I know I read it recently, but my OCD won't let me skip it.
Let's be fair, Jedi Lost is good, so it won't be that much of a problem. It's only 6 hours.
When we first time we did it, I was doing it kind of, even though it wasn't an official review copy we received, I was kind of doing it with a view to talking about it on the show rather than just sitting and absorbing it. So it'd be fun to revisit it, make more sense of the ending.
Yeah, and you'll also, I think it's only, 6 hours, so it's not going to be that, keep you busy for a day, maybe 2.
Yeah. I'm really hopeful we're going to do more audio dramas because it was just superb. The production quality was amazing.
I think there's a kind of minor shift towards audio dramas as a preferred method of communicating stories to a point.
Audible's done a few,
Yeah, they seem to be slowly ramping it up, and I think that's the beginning of a more significant ramp up on stuff as they go. And I think, obviously Audible is only part of that equation. Other services are available, but are not part of this equation. And obviously Lucasfilm has to do it, has to sign off on it. Somebody has to write it. And then they have to get voice actors to record it. So, although Audible represents a kind of a chunk of the outlay involved, I think that they're making enough noise. I get the impression they're making enough noise to publishers that publishers are going for it. Which is good, because they've done some really good... Totally. Have you listened to the Alien ones they've done?
I haven't yet, no.
Oh, they're so good. You'll love them.
Yeah, I'd like to do the Alien 3 one, just because I've always been curious about the William Gibson storyline, and when they got Michael Biehn and Lance Henriksen on board, I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty damn good.
I'll have a bit of that, you thought?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, even the original ones they've done, which are just Audible original dramas, they've actually got really good casts. They've got people like Colin Salmon's in one of them.
Oh, wow.
And
he does a lot of radio dramas.
He's great.
He does a lot of stuff for Big Finish. I have a feeling...
He's got a voice for
Big Finish... No, I think Big Finish are a company who do a lot of... certainly used to if they've been around long enough, they were released on CD originally, but they do a lot of licensed audio dramas. They do a lot of Doctor Who and Torchwood stuff.
Okay.
And they did an audio drama remake of Blake 7, and I have a feeling he played Roger Blake in it.
Okay. I mean, I can believe it. Like I say, he's got the voice for that sort of performance, so I can see why they would use him. But yeah, I find it interesting that there's such a kind of a swell of these productions, and I say it bodes quite well for me. I think it's a really positive, encouraging sign that we're going to be in for some really high quality stuff in the near future, hopefully.
Yeah.
And like I say, if Star Wars can form another part of that, then brilliant, because they were going to be stories that are going to be better to tell in audio form.
Yeah, totally.
It's nice when sometimes it's nice when you've got characters who are kind of similar, but not the same, but you can differentiate them by voice. Okay. That can be quite handy. Anyway.
A quick correction. Colin Salmon played Avon, not
Avon. All right, there you go.
So, who's, probably the best character.
He's the one who comes door to door and sells you cosmetics, right?
That's the one, yeah.
Nice. Other door-to-door cosmetic things are available, but aren't in Blake 7, so... make of that what you will, I guess. So we begin this week, as is so often the beginning of every week, with a message from Knight of the Commonwealth, Vesuvi. And Vesuvi writes, "Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brad.
You're welcome, Vesuvi.
Thanks, Bruce Wayne's Wang. It's always a delight."
There is the new official TSW mouse mat, guys. Buy it.
How far along do you need to scroll your page?
They can still make mouse mats. Who has a mouse?
They do, but they make them. But at the same time, would you want one that shape? I just feel like your screens aren't that. Your screens are taller and your screens are shorter. It's
not the hero clicks we need, but it's the one we deserve right now.
It really, yeah. I mean, I won't lie. I mean, to be honest, sometimes with some sets, you do find yourself going, man. If they do a DC Black Label run, it's got to be happening. If that means I get another John Constantine, then great.
Yeah.
This time I will learn my lesson and just buy it, rather than devote a YouTube series to his pursuit.
Anyway, so the Batwing who laughs.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks. Replicants in need of software upgrades.
No, it's gone. Can't remember it.
No,
sure.
Me neither. Thanks.
Whatever she's talking about, I'm sure it was very, very funny.
I'm sure it was. It was us. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
Thanks, toy pestering demographic. I know that one. That's children. And well, actually, it's not all children, is it? I don't know why I came across so confident there. I'm not sure anymore.
No.
Thanks, John Williams' unquestionable musical talent. That one I remember.
That's undeniable.
Yeah, that one I definitely remember. Yeah. In a book club I participate in, I recently had the pleasure of rereading... What are we doing in the second half of the show? Refresh my memory.
I can't remember.
In a book club I participate in, I recently had the pleasure of rereading Aftermath, Empire's End. There's an interlude featuring the Acolytes of the Beyond in which Kaiser ignited an acquired lightsaber through Remy's temples until his eyeballs cooked. Yes, it killed him, but his nagging migraines were cured. Considering all of the deaths we've encountered in canonical sources, what's the one you'd most like to avoid were you a resident in a galaxy far, far away? Alluring as a mangy gerber, Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth. So, all the Star Wars canon deaths, what would you want the least?
It's tough, man. There's a lot of... it's a very Star Wars thing to kill second-tier characters in an offhand manner, but what is the most grotesque one?
I mean,
man, that's tough.
Originally it would have been Boba Fett, I guess, right?
Because that's not only is that just long and painful, it's also just quite an embarrassing way to die.
Yeah, exactly. You know, because not only has he got to deal with 1,000 years of, well, I mean, probably not 1,000 years, 100 years maybe, let's say, of pain and suffering. He's also got to deal with the fact that he got in there through really embarrassing means.
Yeah.
It's just a really kind of damp squib way to die.
Yeah.
And I suppose, you know, having said that, now I say until he was saved, as far as I know, there's no official word on that. I seem to recall there was some offhand comment that George Lucas had made that was being interpreted as his eternal life.
There's a pub fact thing people will say to you, the one I always hear is, the last thing George Lucas did before he handed the rights over was say, oh boy, Boba Fett evaded Scarlet. I can't find any evidence for that ever. It's just poodoo cooked up by people who think they know what they're talking about. You know, Lucas had the chance to bring back Boba Fett when he did the special edition of Jedi and didn't. Mm-hmm. So there would have been nothing to stop him inserting a shot of Boba Fett clawing his way back out.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they reshot bits with the Boba Fett armor for A New Hope. There's absolutely no reason they couldn't have done something like that for Jedi. So I don't think Lucas really cares, to be honest with you.
I can't imagine he was particularly bothered about it, certainly at that point as well. Last thing he does is he hands the keys over is probably... You know, thanks for that.
I mean, let's be honest. For his other contributions to canon, kind of post for prequels, apart from some stuff which he kind of malformed in the Clone Wars, because during the shooting of the Clone Wars, basically Dave Filoni was bringing him stuff from the expanded universe and saying we should use this. This is really cool. Yeah. And George Lucas would kind of just. George Lucas-fy it a little bit so that it no longer actually fit in with the expanded universe in any way, and it was just like this punched jackfruit. And so something like a perfect example is Dave Filoni brought to him the courtship of Princess Leia and said, there's these Night Sisters of Dathomir, we should use those, they're a really cool idea. And George Lucas goes off and goes, oh, here's a really good idea, how about if instead of that we do? And so that's why the Night Sisters of Dathomir and the Clone Wars TV series don't really resemble the Night Sisters of Dathomir in Courtship of Princess Leia in any meaningful way.
They want to just kind of
dark side wishes.
Yeah, they just kind of takes the vague premise and kind of Lucasizes it.
Yeah.
Which, and fair enough, right?
But after 2 or 3 times of doing that, Dave Filoni just stopped bringing him stuff to do that with.
Yeah.
And obviously once Lucas left, Filoni just went, I can bring in Thrawn, now it's safe!
Yeah.
So his contributions to canon were on chat shows where he did stuff like name Admiral Motti after Conan O'Brien, or was it Jon Stewart's show he was on? He decided that Obi-Wan's planet was called Stew John, which is still hard canon because George Lucas decreed it.
Yeah.
But for a man who did that, I can't believe he was that invested in the ultimate fate of Boba Fett on his day of checking out.
Yeah.
It doesn't really sit with me. He would have been much more likely to do something like, oh, by the way, Forlom's middle name is Jeff, and then hand the keys over. That was his contributions.
For Jeff Lom.
Yeah, that was the kind of stuff he did, kind of post prequels. He wasn't really that invested. love the man. He did a load of work, but
absolutely,
that wasn't a level he operated on. Is what I'm saying.
What I love is the notion of for Jeff LOM, because it reads. If you imagine it in your head, it reads like one of those local area estate agent adverts you'd see on TV. Call for Jeff LOM for all your legal aid needs.
It looks
I
like
do contract. I do.
It looks like a lawyer named Jeff LOM tried to get a number plate and it didn't, and then decided to go for the second cheapest one.
Or he wanted,
and then rethemed the rest of the marketing around the number plate.
Or he wanted a Jeff LOM, and they said he couldn't quite have that, so he got the closest he could get.
This was 75 quid cheaper.
Yeah. Exactly. For Jeff LOM, if you think about it, it's way better. If you think about it until words lose all meaning.
Is it Jeff? Really?
Is it Jeff? Is it fair to say, Jeff, that everything is that good if you think about it until words lose all meaning? Every idea on the planet. If you
smack your head against a wall hard enough and long enough, everything makes sense or doesn't. Enjoy.
Yeah. Or if you love
Star
craft,
Wars legal disclaimers, please do not smack your head against a wall.
Yeah. Or if you love craft, I've always suspected, smash your head against the typewriter, and that's name your monster.
Name a deity.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
We call it.
Or just drop it. Yeah.
Why am I bleeding? I've forgotten.
Yeah, and I'm fairly sure a lot of people do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Are we in agreement that the Sarlacc is the worst? I'm trying to think. There's obviously
the Sarlacc is protracted. I guess. I mean, let's run through movies. That's what we tend to do. Prequels. Yeah. I mean, Pod Racer Crash. That can't be too pleasant.
That's got to suck, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the one do they establish that the one who fires off all the engines blow apart because it gets decoupled and it goes flying, the cockpit goes flying off into the air? Do they ever establish that they just come back down and just smash into the floor?
It's like a very small version of End or Holocaust theory.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It does seem a bit, when you think about it that way, it's quite grim, isn't it?
Yeah.
What else is there? So those are the main ones in pod races, lightsabers,
Attack of the Clones. With a lot of war, but that's again, it's not protracted, is it? It's stabbed or shot or blown up.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing unless you get crushed to death by Randy Nerf. That's the only thing that's gonna.
There's a mental image I didn't know I needed.
Episode 3. I mean, having all your limbs chopped off and left in a bottle in lava can't be too pleasant.
No, I can imagine not, actually. That might be it, because he doesn't die from it. No. Maybe it doesn't count then.
Well, eventually, but yeah.
Yeah, but maybe that doesn't count. Because it's actually the Emperor's Lightning that kills him, we guess.
I wasn't sure if it was the lightning short-circuited the suit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, so thematically that works better for me, because it did mean the Sith actively destroyed each other.
Yeah,
but his ultimate death is still a result of the injuries he was sustained as a result of
Obi-Wan
and his decisions on that day. Yeah,
reckon his shiz.
Yeah, totally. A New Hope. I mean, serious crown injury from banging your head on a door.
Yeah, I mean, also let's not forget. I reckon it's got to suck a little bit more to not only die on the Death Star, but be in the room with Tarkin after you said to him we had plenty of time to get away, and he's like, forget that, mate. That's got to sting more, because it's just like, I told you, like, we did this, we've been through the whole thing. I warned you, and you're like, no, it'll be fine. Yeah. No, I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy, Wilf. I hope you're really, really bloody happy.
Yeah. Do you know who wouldn't have done this? Krennic.
Exactly, yeah. Orson listened to me.
Yeah. Krennic's death sucks.
That does,
because he just has a really awful day.
Yeah, it's Orson Krennic's really bad, terrible, really bad day.
Good day.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Somebody say Ben knocked it out.
Yeah. Things to do on Scarif when you're dead.
Yeah. Empire. I mean, Wampers are pretty terrifying. There's a deleted scene where they kill a load of people.
They kill a Tauntaun, right? As well. They kill Luke's.
That's true. Yeah,
I'd say that counts. I would consider that. That would consider that a count.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Empire. Nobody else. Vader chokes out a couple of people.
But
that seems like
again,
it's just
embarrassing.
Yeah, that just seems like it's probably not painful for that long.
Disciplinary meeting.
Yeah, it's probably not painful for that long. It's probably uncomfortable by its nature of having your air removed. But
Yeah.
I don't imagine it's painful until the last minute.
Yeah. No, I think Vader's is the best answer we're gonna get here.
Yeah, I think you're right. In fact, I can't think of anything in the nothing in the sequels springs to mind.
Well,
Snoke just gets cut in half.
Yeah,
and people have survived that in Star Wars.
I'm not saying that's pleasant.
No.
In any way, but yeah, I've forgotten about the eyeball boiling thing. I'm now trying to think of comics and book stuff, see if there's anything especially bad from there. But maybe I'm just brain farting because nothing is immediately leaping to mind.
What about if you're in the corridor scene in Rogue One and you've got the simultaneous thoughts of, oh my god, he's going to kill me, and this is the coolest thing ever. Yeah,
that's totally fair. Actually,
yeah, I think it's totally fair in both respects. I think it's totally fair in so much as it's a really awesome. I think that's the awesomest way to die. It's got to be, I'd want the most powerful Force user in history to take me down.
I don't know. It's not technically a death scene. But I don't know if there's any death in Star Wars that would be more painful than watching a Grandpa Wookiee use a sex chat line at a dinner table.
How do we manage to bring this back in every so often without fail? That bloody holiday special will be the death of me, I swear. It'll be my heart.
Yeah.
Or my will.
Yeah.
It'll be the end of episode 3.
Yeah.
If you cut away to the medical droid, for reasons we don't understand, we're losing her, and you pan back to Padme laying in that hospital bed, and on the side of on the TV at the side is a bloody holiday special.
You could just hear a very tinny background Jefferson Starship running over the conversation.
Oh, that barmaid's.
Be Arthur.
Oh, maybe that's the worst way, but that's one we've invented. Is having just given birth to twins, have to sit with the holiday special on as background noise.
Anyone out there who hasn't seen the Star Wars holiday special, just be assured that that was very funny, and we don't recommend you actually watch it.
I would say watch it with a group. Never, under any circumstances, watch it by yourself.
I think I've said before, the problem I have with the holiday special is if you're a real Star Wars fan, then I think you should see it because it's so bizarre. But at the same time, if you're a real Star Wars fan, I strongly recommend that you don't watch it. It's a real Pandora's box for Star Wars fans. It is.
It is a weird gig. It's not the best.
So, like we said before, how I feel about the Star Wars holiday special is it's not just that it's bad. Mm-hmm. It is bad. There's no getting away from the fact it is bad. It is objectively bad. Yeah. But just to say it's bad is to not acknowledge how weird it is.
It's a very strange hour and a half.
It is strange.
Yeah.
It is bad. That's not to say it's bad. It is bad, but that doesn't, just to say it's bad,
doesn't get it across
doesn't get across how weird it is.
I'm with you.
Yeah, and maybe we should do a commentary track for it sometime.
I mean, we've already seen it once.
That's true. Maybe we could just sit down and with 50,000 yard stairs and just talk about it.
Maybe. Maybe we should both see a therapist instead. Yeah. Just in general. But while we're there, just see, what do you think is the source of your unresolved anxiety? Well, have you ever seen the Star Wars Holiday Special? Yeah. Never mind. All right. No. Do you know what? I'm going to cancel my 4 o'clock.
Right. Imagine your granddad came over for dinner.
I will say, if you want to hear a really good commentary, Generation X-Wing did one for the actual. They did a proper commentary track for the Holiday Special.
Brilliant.
It's well worth your time.
Okay.
You don't even. In fact, you don't even. I think I'd seen it a few days before, but I didn't actually have it running while I was listening to the commentary, and it still worked.
Okay,
it's
brilliant.
Just hilarious because it's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, as you rightly point out, it's so strange. You just find yourself thinking,
have I been watching these Wookiees talk for 15 minutes straight?
Yeah, exactly. With no subtitles or any kind of telling us what to expect. Oh, man.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for CV. So to answer your question, sure.
Yeah. No, to answer your question, we think it sounds like Vader.
Yeah,
because
that's a better answer.
You want to talk protracted? It's constant pain for 20 years, and then being electrocuted by an old man.
Yeah, I feel, it feels like we're gaming the question, but at the same time, it feels like a good answer.
Yeah, but he does die ultimately.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the worst way to die in Star Wars? Ask the bloke who's been in constant pain for 20 years and then gets electrocuted by an old man as he throws him down the reactor shaft.
Yeah,
and especially if that old man's been using the phone to call weird text lines in the holiday special. Mm-hmm. I don't know what... I forget what point we were making.
No, I've lost it.
Yeah, that's fine. So, Vesuvi, thank you very much for your email. And as always, we welcome your contributions, if only because I always love which bits she picks up on at the beginning. This week it was Bruce Wayne's... Wang, Replicants, Children, and John Williams. Mm-hmm. So, if you ever want Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young for the weird, that's your lot. So our next message comes from Darth Mark, the Jedi formerly known as Mark Airy, who has apparently fallen. Hello there. So I asked him last week what he meant by requests. So I said he said, "What if you want any more requests, I can do it." And we were curious about what he meant by requests. He clarifies that what he meant is that I asked him what he thought Brad looked like, because we weren't sure. Because he'd mentioned that you didn't look like he pictured.
Yep.
He sent over a picture.
It's not far.
It's not terrible. It's not a bad approximation.
No, it was a brown-haired guy with a beard and glasses, wasn't it?
Yeah. What was interesting was have you still got the picture? Somewhere? No,
I think you just showed me on your phone. I think you actually sent it to me, did you?
Possibly not, but I can always send it over. But just between us, because I realise this isn't going to mean anything to the listeners. Mm-hmm. Tabletop War James with glasses.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll try and convince everyone that we're related.
Maybe, yeah. I don't see why not. I mean, brothers sometimes have the same hobbies, so
yeah, totally. I mean, I look a lot more like him than I do my own brother.
Well, this is it,
Yeah.
But we all love Blake. I mean, that goes without saying, right?
I love him, and I'm glad I don't look like
him. Mark continues. Well, cool. I'm back podcasting, and you can find it here. Now, he sent me a link, but obviously I have to read the name of the show because links don't translate so well over radio. But the name of the podcast, which is available on iTunes and most Android-based ones, I did find it's not on Google Podcasts, but I did find it elsewhere. Okay. It's called the Blue Harvest Star Wars Toy Podcast.
Okay.
It would be nice to work with you again sometime. Well, there's some free publicity for you, so let's see how we go from there. Last week, I bought a Palatoy carded Boba Fett. I won't say how much, just in case the burglars are listening, but just to say it was the most I've ever paid for a Star Wars item. What's the most you've paid for your love of Star Wars, a trip or a collectible? And what would you buy if money was no object? That's it for now, Darth Mark. So what's the most you've paid for Star Wars I'm guessing it'd be unlikely to say gaming the question. I guess we're talking single item.
My Mandalorian War Banner tattoo was just shy of £200.
Okay. That's a good answer.
Yeah. I think there's any other single items. I've acquired collections of stuff like my Armada and my Legion and my Imperial Salt stuff is more than that, but that's like a series of piecemeal purchases rather than a single item.
Yeah.
I think that's a single big one. So I'm not one for maquettes or paintings or action figures. They're not my bag. No, I love that people love them, but it's not something I'm enthusiastic about. Yeah. I think that's probably it. I mean, when the Superstar Destroyer comes out for Armada, I think that'll rival the tattoo. But
I think price-wise, it sounds like it's going to come in similar. Yeah. I'm trying to think what mine would be. It might be
Brad's Mandalorian War Banner tattoo.
The original. I can't believe I went in harms on that. What did I get out of it, honestly? I just get to look at it. And that's kind of cool, I guess. Fine. Yeah. I've talked myself back into it. I think it might be the original Blu-ray release.
Okay.
The Saga release they did.
Yeah.
It was basically the Anakin Vader thingy picture. You know, the one that did the rounds, the teaser poster that for episode 1 that did the rounds.
I'm not a fan of that box set, but
no, it's a good box. It's a good box set.
The content's fine, but the cover art, I was first through it, I was like, "Is it really?"
Yeah,
they've gone for vomit yellow.
I do find myself sometimes. The one they released since then is just a picture of Darth Vader, and I'm often tempted just to buy another set just to have that one, and just keep the other one because it's obviously the first release. So there's that whole thing of I don't want to get rid of it because it's Star Wars, and I have trouble getting rid of Star Wars. Beyond that,
same.
Beyond movie purchases, I think Mark actually was there for this. He would have been there for this, but in terms of it might be the most expensive purchase I've made. I bought a Black Series Darth Revan.
Oh, nice!
From we went to Echo Live in Redditch. I think it was Redditch. For the TSW Toy Box back in the day. Me, Mark, and Jeremy from Now with the Retro Inc. podcast. And Freddie, Jeremy's little boy, who, if he doesn't end up in some sort of broadcasting, I will be amazed.
Okay.
But yeah, I picked up 2 figures that day. I picked up Jaina Solo and Darth Revan as Black Series, and I'm pretty sure that Darth Revan was $40.
That's a lot for a toy, yeah.
It was a lot for a toy, yeah. It was just one of those ones where I'd never seen it before, and I thought, oh man, I got a bit excited and got a bit swept up. Annoyingly, they've since reprinted. So actually you can go into Forbidden Planet, other shops are available, and get one for £25.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, ultimately, if I wanted collectability, I wouldn't buy Black Series anyway, because it's a complete false economy.
Yeah, no, that's my understanding of this sort of stuff you got to collect for the love of it. If you're collecting Star Wars merchandise for profit, then that money is better off in a savings account
or on fire, perhaps.
But if an ISA will appreciate more than a storage locker full of Star Wars toys.
I'd say, new Star Wars toys. I mean, obviously, like Mark's example of the Palatoy carded Boba Fett, that's genuinely valuable.
Is that going to increase in value over time, or is it going to kind of steady out? Is my point.
I think it would.
I don't really know. I'm genuinely interested.
I think the older stuff does appreciate in value because of scarcity, and stuff becomes much like the kind of kit cars they make. I remember an old boss of mine used to have a TVR, certain model of TVR, which is like for those who don't know, it's like a sports kit car. And he used to trawl the forums because every time one got written off, his went up in value by a few £100 because it was one of an even smaller number. So every time one got retired or written off or just, scrapped in any way, his would appreciate in value because they only made so many.
Yeah.
With the older stuff, that's the case still. Like, they still only made so many, and it's been 40 years. With the new stuff, not only is there so much of it, like I went into Forbidden Planet, which is local to my work, as long-time listeners will know, yesterday, and there were, I want to say, dozens of Black Series on the shelf. And not just dozens of figures, but dozens of separate characters. It does feel like they've cast the net quite wide now in terms of what they'll make a Black Series figure of. I'm pretty sure I've seen the entire cast of Solo. And that's
it was supposed to be a elite club originally.
I thought it was more, I think this is what I wonder about, because I know that we've talked before about how they've it seems like they're overproducing and they're not selling Star Wars toys. And I wonder if it's because there's no scarcity anymore, both in terms of the quantity they make and the number of characters they cover. You can get Funko Pops. I mean, I know Funko Pops, we banged on about those, or at least certainly I have, a number of times, because I have a kind of mixed relationship with them. As in, there are a few that I really like, but at the same time, I don't want to spend all my money on them because space, it's the same reason I don't spend all my money on most things. It's just,
that's fair.
Space is more of a premium than toy funds.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, so I have, a decent number of Funkos, and I am looking at moving some of them on to, more loving homes than mine in the not too distant future. So I'll condense my collection down a bit. Maybe I'll pick up 1 or 2 new ones, because I have done Prince ones since then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're awesome.
Oh, man, that sounds so cool.
They got the ones with the third eye sunglasses he wore. They've got a Purple Rain one. I think they've just got a sort of purple suited different guitar that's not Purple Rain, but it's kind of just classic Prince.
You're going to have to get a Prince one and a Joker one to go with it, though, surely.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to have the Bat Dance combined. Like, it doesn't work any other way. But it does mean finding the Jack Nicholson Joker, which might be trickier.
Yeah. Oh, man, I haven't seen that film for ages.
Yeah. I'm surprised they haven't done a Funko of Bob the Goon, to be honest, because like, at this point, they've done, it seems, everybody else.
That is the thing I have with Funko Pops, is it's so saturated. When I see Funko Pops of a character I like, I don't go, oh my God, that's amazing. My reaction is now, well, of course I have.
Yeah.
Of course there's a Merman Funko Pop.
They did Austin Powers ones recently, and that actually kind of caught my eye as like, oh, do you know what? That's kind of just old enough as a property that I'm kind of like, oh yeah, you know what? I could have a little toy of that just as a, because I don't mind Funko Pops when there's no other way to get a little plastic version of a figure you like. You know what I mean? There's not there's not a mainline Austin Powers action figure run at the moment. There just isn't, because understandably so. It's an old movie.
Yeah, that's how commerce works.
It's quite cult. It's you know.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not on TV now like Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Harry Potter's always got that kind of merchandising force behind it. Star Wars, see above.
Yeah.
But, you know, with Funkos, you can at least have a little Dr. Evil that's just like a little plastic Dr. Evil, and that's fun, you know.
Sometimes Mini-Me's a bit cheaper, that's fine.
Exactly, yeah. Like Willow action figures. It's like, hang on.
Yeah.
This feels like this should be way cheaper than it is.
Yeah.
Or any of the Ewoks, frankly.
Yeah.
But with Funko Pops, I feel like they've done every single member of the cast of Solo. And it seems to me like Solo's one of the more cult films of the Star Wars universe, but it's still
they have their own action figures.
Yeah,
surely.
Exactly. They've got they had action figures. They actually re-released a bunch of Last Jedi and Force Awakens stuff with Solo cards as well.
For no reason
other than because they still had the figures in the factories from when they did the original run, I guess.
Yes, so yeah.
But that's what I mean, right? Nobody is going out and buying 4 different versions of Luke with different cards from Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rogue One, you know, Solo, Rise of Skywalker, because people hopefully have figured out that these ones are being produced in such volume that they're not, if they do appreciate and value, it's not going to be for decades. People are going to have to be sort of play fast and loose and get rid of stuff. And also, not for nothing, but toy production is so much sturdier than it was in the 80s.
Yeah, of course.
Because things get better over time. That's how the markets kind of work. Production methods become safer. They become easier to mass produce. They improve the materials. They improve the manufacturing processes. They improve the sculpts. I mean, you think about Black Series. Can you imagine getting that much detail on a figure in 1978?
I mean, it's not something anyone's asked me before, so
I can imagine.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I mean, it's not a staple of market research.
No, it's true. That is fair. Yeah. Can you imagine that this would be done in 1978 to this standards? But I don't think they would have been. I think you would have had to pay for the really big, like the 1/6 scale stuff they do now.
Yeah,
the Coated Bookia and the Hot Toys and stuff, the 1/6 scale big stuff. That would be the smallest size you'd get to get Black Series level detail in the 70s. You'd have to go to a massive scale to get that level of fine detail.
Well, it wasn't the Star Wars toys actually the first action figures to be reducing that scale. They'd all been kind of Action Man size before then.
That might be true. I don't know. Annoyingly, I feel like it was mentioned in a documentary I watched. I think it's called Plastic Galaxy. It's on Amazon. Other services are available, but I don't think they have it. And it's well worth your time if you haven't seen it already. It's just about Star Wars action figure production and the history, the run up, the build up to it, and then the sort of the aftermath of the original run and all the sort of basically the original trilogy action figure period. It's all about that, and it's about I want to say 40 minutes to an hour. It's not that long. It's well worth your time. But in terms of spend, I've really not spent that much on Star Wars specifically for single items. My collection, funnily enough, I had a chat with Rob Cast recently, and he asked about how much do you think your collection, in terms of how much have you spent on it? I'd say comfortably in the 4 to 5 figures in terms of between let's say 5 and 10,000 over my life. But on single items, I really think the Blu-ray set might be the most I've spent on a single purchase. Because even when I bought the digital copies of the original Saga on Apple, I'm pretty sure it was reduced. Okay. Pretty sure it was on some sort of deal at the time.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't, it was probably only 60, 70, same as the Blu-rays.
Yeah, I don't think it was especially expensive.
No, this is it. It's going to be some sort of Saga box set. Is my answer to that question.
Yeah,
I guess
Star Wars doesn't have to break the bank, kids.
No, exactly. You can have whatever. Yeah, if you want it to, then by all means. If that's what you want to spend your money on, more power to you. And then, what would you buy if money was no object?
Star Wars related.
Yeah, I'm guessing so.
Emilia Clarke's affection.
Can that be bought?
Well, you said money was no object, so I'm going to say yeah.
All right, fair enough. That is fair.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Do you just want to be a mate?
Talk Star Wars, legal disclaimers. Slavery is not attractive.
Okay. I thought you just wanted to be a friend.
Oh yeah. That was the implication.
Yeah.
Sure. Trying to think. Cut a bit.
Trying to dig you out here.
Don't.
Just go with it.
If George Lucas wanted to be Doug out, he'd have put a scene in when he had the chance.
That's true.
If money was no object, a 1-to-1 scale Millennium Falcon.
Nice. Okay.
I could live in.
Yeah, that sounds like a good answer, I think. I would probably go for something similar, to be honest. I'm trying to think. If money was... The thing is, a lot of the time, it's not so much that money's no object, although it is. Mm-hmm. It's that space is the premium. That's the trouble I find.
Well, that's why you need a 1-to-1 Millennium Falcon, so you can keep all your Star Wars tat in.
Yeah, that's true. That would be... If it was... how amazing would that be? It's just whatever you bought... You had a full-size scale version of that to put it in, to store the thing.
See?
I would say if you're just talking things that are already produced, things that have already been made, it would have to be that Lego Stardust. No, actually, I'll go one further. They used to make a Star Destroyer model with fiber optic lights.
Oh, really?
In the 90s, I want to say. One of those big Airfix kits.
Yeah.
And it was massive. And I always used to go there was a shop in Chatham, down at the end of the high street. I can't remember the name of it, but it used to have a model shop upstairs.
I know the one you mean.
Yeah, it was like a craft shop downstairs and a model shop upstairs.
That's one, yeah.
Yeah, it's both forms of craft, but you know the kind of thing I mean. Yeah. And I used to go up to the model shop bit while the rest of the family would sort of flip between the two. And just this Star Destroyer Airfix kit just transfixed me. As a sort of, older, like sort of preteen, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Kind of, I was probably about 11 or 12, I suppose.
That's preteen, technically. They can't touch you.
Yes, indeed. But that would be one of them.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good answer.
Yeah, the Star Destroyer model kit.
Yeah, and you could always keep it in your Falcon.
That's true. Yeah.
Or in my Falcon, we could just turn my 1-to-1 Falcon into a Star Wars museum.
That is very true. We could totally do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
All right, cool.
Yeah, nice. So your answer is the 1-to-1 Falcon?
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Unless anyone's got a better idea.
No, that's a really good answer, I think. Well, there you go, Mark. Thank you for your message. And hopefully those answers meet with your toy expertise satisfaction. That's a weird thing to say. But... hopefully they do. And feel free to send over any questions or comments you feel worth chucking into the mix. So our next message comes from Dave in Australia. And it's been a little while since we heard from Dave. And accordingly, he's given us a nice long list of stuff, which is cool. So Dave writes, "G'day, fellas. I missed replying to the episode before last so as to contribute to the universal fan levelers topic. Which is good. This works out fine because actually last week we said this discussion is not done. And actually we've had a couple of people send stuff through, so that's nice. Mm-hmm. I have a few that seem to be a common thread when I chat with fellow fans. Obviously they're open to disagreement. So I'm going to tell you what, I'm just going to read them through and we'll go through them one by one after that.
Okay.
First one. Brad beat me to this one. Star Wars music by John Williams is much loved common ground. The Imperial March is my mobile phone ringtone, and when it rings in public, I often receive a few smiling faces or smirks. Those that know it, love it. Number 2. Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie. As a 47-year-old fan, most of my friends who like me... Well, hang on, let me just reread. As a 47-year-old fan, most of my friends who, like me, love the prequels too, still hold this movie as number one. Originally, I was reading it as a 47-year-old fan, most of my friends who like me like the prequels too. I was like, that's nice.
It's a popular one. I don't know. I agree. It's a universal leveler, though.
So it says, he goes on to say, it seems universal that Empire is most fans' number one or at least number two.
It's very well loved, but a universal level has to be completely unanimous, doesn't it?
I think we could probably get away with walking it back as far as Empire is a good movie.
Yeah, okay.
It's one of the it's one of the
most loved ones for sure. Yeah,
yeah, and I think he's right that it's generally up near the one or two for almost everyone.
Yeah,
we did also establish that universal levelers we struggled to come up with that many universal ones.
Yeah.
Number 3, Princess Leia. I agree with your point that admiring Princess Leia is universal among fans. She's a legend. I'll go one universal leveler further to say that every fan would agree that Carrie Fisher looks amazing in her Jabba slave bikini. Be it a male or female fan, you'd have to agree she looks amazingly fit and smoking hot in that outfit. I would agree she looks she makes it work. I actually don't think it's where she's the most attractive.
Okay.
For me, Hoth Leia wins.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I get it.
She just does.
I get it.
Maybe she's just it's practicality. Maybe I'm just like, look at how well she's dressed for the weather.
Yeah,
that's so clever.
Look at those pockets.
Yeah. Oh. Steady on. I'll keep this PG. Number 4, everyone loves Chewie.
Yeah, he's pretty well loved.
If you've ever had a loyal pet dog, you're going to appreciate and love Chewie. The emotions that Peter Mayhew brought to life with only head tilts, growls, and cuddles makes this character a much loved one. Going back to my phone, my SMS notification is a Chewie howl, and when that goes off around people, their eyes widen, they smile, and ask, "Is that Chewie?" Well, I don't know. I haven't checked yet. Could be anybody. Could be my brother. Number 5. This one is actually surprisingly contentious because there seems to be two schools of thought on this one.
Okay.
Stormtroopers are terrible shots. Most fans would agree, but totally accept that Stormtroopers aren't the best marksmen. But that's cool. That's Star Wars. I think there's a school of thought that says that they were missing on purpose.
There's a school of thought that says they were missing on purpose, which makes sense.
Yep.
But that doesn't explain why they're quite so inaccurate for the following 2 movies.
Also fair.
Yeah. I actually really, coming back to Legion.
Yes.
I like the explanation that Legion puts into place.
Okay.
Because in Legion, the Blastag E11, which is the standard Stormtrooper issue rifle, has the weakest dice in the game. But the Stormtroopers themselves have bolt-on abilities which will give them re-rolls and buffs when they're concentrating and firing en masse.
Right.
So I like the idea that it's they are exceptionally well trained, they're exceptionally accurate, but they've got very, very cheap mass-produced guns which are incredibly inaccurate.
Okay.
And as the E11s was actually modelled on, it's basically a British Sten gun, the actual prop. And in the Second World War, they were just cast iron and slapped together, very, very cheaply produced, making massive amounts of these guns. And they were, I think the safety was just held on by a spring.
Oof.
And when my granddad was in the Second World War, he used to say if there was like a motorcycle courier or something, if he went over a pothole, his gun would go off on the back.
Wow.
Because it would just hit the trigger and it would just fire around off into the air. Yeah. So I like that idea that the Stormtroopers are accurate, but they don't have the best equipment. They have the cheapest equipment.
Yeah. I can see how that would be possible. Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about kind of Imperial bureaucracy,
absolutely,
and the extension thereof, it does kind of extend to if you're going to militarize across the galaxy, large volumes of weapons are going to be an advantage in that regard.
And you're going to start cutting corners.
Yeah, exactly. It makes perfect sense, Plus, as you sort of sink more and more of your costs into said bureaucracy and maintenance thereof, that stands to reason almost.
Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. So within the films, it has never been established that they are not terrible shots.
No.
So I think it's fair to say there is at least some.
Yeah, I think most people, much as everyone knows, red shirts die.
Yeah,
sometimes it's why they're sent along on these missions, which consist of let's go to this planet to stop off and do a yearly medical for these 2 scientists living in this quarry, and be sure to send down the captain, the chief science officer, the doctor, and Ensign Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's not related to Jeff LOM.
No, indeed. For Jeff LOM is a separate bloke. The surname is different, mainly. Yeah. Anyway, Dave continues. One final discussion point. So these were not the universal levelers. So I think we've we've agreed on as many of those as we're going to agree on. Mm-hmm. So Empire is always towards the top. That's fair to say. Yeah. Star Wars music by John Williams. We already agreed on that one. Yeah. Everybody loves Leia.
Yeah. I love that sitcom.
Yeah, everybody, I think, concurs that she makes the slave bikini such as it is. She makes it work.
She makes it work. Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody does love Chewie. I've never heard a bad word said against Chewie. No, Ewoks, Porgs, everything except Chewie. Chewie is the one that nobody ever has a bad word to say about.
Very true.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think Dave's chosen well there. And as far as the films are concerned, Stormtroopers are terrible shots.
Yep, I'll go with that.
So yeah, I think that's a good set. I think he's done pretty well there. Anyway, one final discussion point. What do you make of the appointment of Michelle Raywan as, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, as Senior Vice President of Live Action Development and Production? I don't know too much about her other than that she's worked with J.J. Abrams on other films and has been involved in TFA and Rogue One, so I was hoping you may know more. Do you think her appointment is a good one? Do you think she will be the eventual successor to Kathleen Kennedy? Do you think this could have been a role for Dave Filoni, or is he preoccupied with creating new Star Wars stories? Appreciate your thoughts. Thanks again for a great show. May the force be with you, Dave in Western Australia. So for this one, obviously, I will say up front, I'm not intimately familiar with her to any more degree than Dave is. So I'm going to reframe the question.
I was going to say, thank God, because I'm sitting here going, a person I've never heard of has got a job that I didn't know existed. I'm not really sure what you're asking me to say.
Yeah, that's good. We like it when people find work.
Yes.
Employment is good. Do you think it's good? It's a good sign that they're staffing up positions like live action development and production studios?
Yeah, I guess so. I presume this is going to be overseeing the Disney Plus shows.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Yeah. Double-edged sword, I think. It's nice to have someone overseeing a specific area, but the more and more people you're staffing up with, the less it becomes a story group and just becomes a bullpen of disjointed creative directions.
I mean, I suppose that is a risk pretty much with any,
unless, I don't know, there is a limit to how they're going to take on. If they take more and more staff and they've got to fight someone else for their place.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, maybe she's got to fight Dave Filoni for a job, I don't know.
Maybe they have to do it like...
I mean, I'd stream that.
Do they have to do the Star Trek fight scene for all TV and film-related appointments?
Definitely sci-fi ones.
Yeah, I think that's written in the rules.
It is, yeah.
And
how else are you going to know they're not a Cylon?
Well, quite. For those who aren't familiar with the rules of science fiction combat, look them up. They're an interesting read.
Good save.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Do you think it's the kind of thing that Dave...
It's almost like you went, this could be a funny bit. Oh, no, never mind. It's 10:20.
No, it wasn't so much even that. I just thought the joke, I kind of thought, that'll work as a joke in and of itself. Mm-hmm. I see now that I was mistaken.
Well, it is.
It's been known.
You've never given me a joke that I've been able to kick to death.
Yeah, that's true. I do leave them open to kicking to death. Dave Filoni, do you think he's more interested in telling stories than management?
I think the word is pronounced felony. And secondly, I don't know. I don't know.
For Jeff Crime, what do you think his modus operandi is?
I don't know. Dave seems to be switched on in a lot of directions.
Okay.
He has his baby projects that he loves working on, but I've always got the sense that he's kind of keeping track of the bigger picture as well.
Mm-hmm. So maybe he's got an eye on it, but he's not. It's not his. Yeah. It's not his role, but he's kind of interested in making sure it makes sense.
Yeah,
I think that's a good position to be in.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's a good person to have in that position.
Absolutely.
He's do much better than that, I would say.
No.
Michelle Ray won clearly. Otherwise, it would be Dave Filoni, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go, Dave. Apologies that we can't give you more of an answer than that, to be honest. But such as it is, it's a corporate hire that we don't really know that much about, and I'm sure they've done their due diligence in making sure that she's the best candidate for the job. So, more power to her. So, we did get another question that made it into this week's notes from Jared McIntyre. And,
hello, Jared.
Yeah, hello, Jared. Nice to hear from you. And Jared writes, "Hi, folks." Oh, nice. Handy. I'm a week behind on the Universal Leveler discussion. I feel like it would be hard to find someone that absolutely detested Admiral Akbar. Maybe he's not everyone's top choice for favourite character, but I feel like we all enjoy his contributions to the saga. Plus, he's become quite meme-worthy over the past several years. I think that's a good one, actually. As in, like, Admiral Akbar being a positive character, as in everybody likes him. Not to the degree of Chewie.
I don't know if I do. I think a lot of people see him as just meme bait and don't really actually like the character. They like him because of the goofy, it's a trap delivery.
Maybe.
So,
do you think they're more in love with the idea of Akbar?
I can get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
So maybe, but unconvinced is my stance on that.
Okay, I can swing with that. Yeah, so maybe they're more in love with the idea of Akbar than the execution.
Yeah.
That seems fair to say.
They love Akbar, they're just not in love with Akbar.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it. Jared continues, okay, so I came across a clickbaity headline the other day describing a new Rise of Skywalker theory. Brace yourself. Yep. So this is not Jared saying brace yourself. This was me editorializing. Where they propose that Rey is Shmi Skywalker, as in the exact same person and not a reincarnation. The theory proposed that Rey was stuck in some sort of time loop due to Palpatine's meddling and how powerful she is in the Force. The grand twist in it all... Sorry. It's wonderful. Is that a pregnancy by Kylo somehow happens. I think we can guess how that happens. Which leads to Anakin. Kylo Ren would be his own great-grandpa. Now, I won't say, Jared continues, that I subscribe to this idea or that it makes any sense at all, but I do love hearing you gents talk Star Wars. I'd love to hear how you would navigate and pull off this plot as if it were the real ending to the saga. Long live Palpacino. Oh, thank you very much. Jared McIntyre. So, given that in this universe we are writing the ending of, we have established that the twist is that Rey and Shmi are one and the same. How do you make that work? Can you make that work?
Thanks, guys. This has been my last episode of Twitch Service.
I won't ask why.
Man, yeah, you know what? I've never thought we were going to top for Tarkin is Snoke theory.
No.
But here we are.
Rey is Shmi.
Rey is Shmi. Sure, because reasons.
Because why not, right? Of course. Why would you not?
You've made me go full Boris Johnson. That's me doing an impression of Eddie. I'm doing an impression of Boris Johnson.
That's pretty bang on.
Yeah. Wow, thanks, Jared. That's a real doozy.
Well, I would say thanks to Clickbait Outlet of du jour for that particular gem.
Clickbait poodoo. Good Lord. I'm having trouble coming up with any single touchstone to work from that works.
I have one sentence that might help.
Okay.
The world between worlds.
Oh, God, I have not.
No, but I mean that is a way you can make it work. That's a mechanism that already exists that would allow you to insert Rey into any point in the timeline, theoretically, I guess.
Right. So
now what I don't understand...
Rey is young Shmi.
Basically, yeah.
Who gets time displaced and sent to Tatooine to be a slave for the Hutt cartels?
I guess so. It's like that Britney Spears song. I'm a slave for the Hutt cartels. It's a B-side, I think.
Yeah, what? So Kylo Ren gets Rey, inverted commas, pregnant with his grandfather, Vader, and then she gets sent back 60 years in time to Tatooine.
Right.
For what purpose?
Well, I don't think the implication I read into what Jared said is that it's not a deliberate choice. It's due to Palpatine's meddling in the midichlorians.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no. I can't. Just at some point.
Yep.
I mean. Wow.
I understand. I do. Sincerely.
This is... Yeah, I refuse to believe there is any person out there who believes this series and hasn't just written it for the clickbait money.
I would be very surprised if anybody believes this.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Unless the only movies they've seen are Force Awakens and Phantom Menace.
Or if the only movies they've seen are nothing to do with Star Wars. So maybe they've seen the lake, the lake house. And let's chuck in a couple of ones that you should see. The Birdcage.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Ghostbusters 2.
There you go. If they've seen the Lake House, Ghostbusters 2, and the Birdcage, maybe you can make this. Maybe you could think this would work. Mainly, let's be fair. Even in this clickbait plotline, it's mostly the Lake House that's having an effect on this. I'd say there's not much.
Unless Kylo has to use an animatronic Statue of Liberty to smash Rey back to the past.
Yeah, or
haunted painting.
Excellent choice of verb, by the way. Or if they have to dress up in drag to then escape from a nightclub, like the Birdcage.
You know what? That would have improved Canto Bight.
I agree. I think that would have.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not many things that wouldn't be improved with the addition of Nathan Lane. But
this is so true.
He's great.
If he's not available, Patton Oswalt is basically the same bloke.
He kind of has his, he kind of does have that going, like a sort of, like a straight Nathan Lane.
Straight Sainsbury's basically Nathan Lane,
Yeah. He's not without, not to say that he's without his charms by any means, because he's a good laugh, but he's, he does, I know what you mean, now you've said that.
Yep.
So, I'm trying to think, how do we make this work?
I don't know if we can without just rebooting Star Wars.
I think the World Between Worlds
to be really, really weird.
I think the World Between Worlds is the best chance we've got.
Yeah, but that is using the World Between Worlds in a way that we said we didn't want it to be used as kind of magic eraser.
Yeah, let's be clear, Brad, just to be 100% clear on this, I don't want this. This is not like,
I mean, anyone does.
This is not me jumping to the challenge of make this work. This is me. Since Jared asks.
It's like a Mad Lib where someone's just loaded a load of tennis balls with characters' names into a tennis ball loading machine.
Yep.
And it's just, what if Rey is Shmi?
It's the dartboard. It's the person number YouTube channel dartboard, whose name I won't mention, but everybody knows who I mean. It's the
it gets sent back into the past, but only it's manipulated by Palpatine.
It's all the fault of Dunlop. Hang on, what's happening? To be clear, I don't want this to be a thing. Basically, Jared has asked nicely, and I figure we owe it to him to at least give it a go. That's all. That's all that's happening here. This is not me going, maybe they like my fanfic. This is... I don't write clickbait headlines, but if I did, they'd probably be the best in the world.
Thought about Shmi as a character in the past 15 years?
I wrote a What If once. And this is the thing. This is what's incredible about this What If, right? I haven't revisited it in some time, but I remember the gist. Basically, the premise was Qui-Gon manipulates the Chance Cube to show Shmi instead of Anakin and comes back for him with the Republic.
Okay.
Right? And it made more sense than this. And it was a what if the opposite thing happened.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I don't know if I could do anything weirder. I mean, I could try. But I don't know. What if Finn is Thrawn?
I would read that.
Yeah.
That would be a comic I would read. I wrote a what if that basically revolved around the Jedi takes Shmi back, the Republic comes, the Jedi come back in proper force, recover Anakin, because let's be fair, if he says, I think I found the chosen one, they'll stump up the money.
Yeah.
They'll, the Jedi are...
Even I know if it is Qui-Gon, yeah.
Exactly. But Palpatine will pay.
Oh, yeah,
if
that's
nobody else
true.
does, he'll have the cash. He'll be like, the Jedi won't do it. Even better. And actually, that would be really good because it would cement that friendship between Anakin and Palpatine. And it would give Palpatine one more way to manipulate Anakin early on. It's like, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even be here, mate. So, little gratitude's all I ask. Or however the accent he uses, obviously. But there you go. That what if storyline, based on the complete opposite outcome of a single dice roll, still makes more sense than this headline that Jared's read. Yeah. It's just bizarre to me.
I mean, why not make her General Grievous by this point?
Well, exactly, Ray is...
Again, I'm down for that. Yeah.
Ray
is R4.
Yeah, Ray kicks Lando because reasons.
Yeah, this might be the single most bonkers Star Wars theory I've ever heard.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm old enough to remember a theory that Boba Fett, Luke, and Leia were triplets. So this is I just, what, Jared? Just no.
It just can't. It's just
go to your room.
Really hard to make it work. Let's see if I can find. I'm going to
the original article
as we're talking about. I'm going to find it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm intrigued, and if in the next 5 minutes we're sat here going, actually, that's kind of cool, then I will shoot myself.
Right, here we go. So Star Wars speculation subreddit had it.
Oh God!
Right, so actually,
you know what? Have you ever noticed that the usership of that is exactly the same as r/tennis balls?
r/tennis equipment.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, so there's an article about it on inverse.com, which came from the Star Wars speculation subreddit directly.
Mm-hmm.
And the title is Ray and Shmi are literally the same person. So I'll read this to you. It's actually quite short as well, so this works out quite well.
Yeah, I didn't think I thought it through massively.
No, funny. It's almost like they didn't have a lot of mileage to go with. This is it. So Shmi is Ray. Anakin is the son of Kylo Ren. Shmi returns in time to a sandy planet like Jakku because it's like home. Anakin is corrupted by awaiting Palpatine, whose master Darth Plagueis has a vision of the future that Rey will return, and the cycle repeats. The first comment is peak Reddit. I can't read it. Actually, let me time code this because you're going to get a massive kick out of this. I'm just going to time code it and just read it. So the comment reads, Kylo in his great grandma.
You can leave that in. That's fine.
I don't know. I'm going to play it by
just
ear.
Replace it with.
All right. Might have to do 2 beeps. There you go. We'll see. But yeah, that thread. I'm going to
beep it out. That'll make me sound even worse.
Well, I think in some ways it's funnier. The thread gets amazing. Somebody I'm confused. Can you draw the tree? And then somebody's written underneath, it's a wreath.
I don't know what this person who wrote this had been smoking or what type of head injury they had.
It's wonderful.
Can you imagine even taking that idea to Auntie Kath?
Yeah, and she'd be like,
I think I know how to wrap all of this up.
Wow, this is impressive.
Okay.
Right, so this comment is amazing. This is about, I should also stress that this thread is about 3 months old.
Okay.
Longer, actually. It's even longer than that. But this comment's about 3 months old. This is terrifying. After seeing the Rise of Skywalker title in the opening scene of the teaser, this is where my mind went to immediately. Why? Why would it do that?
Immediately went to raise Shmi.
Yeah. I don't believe them.
What is wrong with these people?
I don't believe them.
This is what my mind immediately went to.
I believe that one. Oh, I thought you meant as in what's wrong with these people is where my mind went immediately. It's like that, I believe.
Yeah.
I have no problem believing that one. That is...
This is just...
absolutely surreal.
Just everyone is IG-88.
Yeah. Why is it suddenly... This is part of the problem is the number of times... These things just pop up.
Are there online journals that would basically make articles out of Reddit threads? That's a thing now.
Yeah, totally. That's been a thing for some time.
Good Lord.
Twitter as well. I mean, it's no great secret that media gets far more mileage out of Twitter than is healthy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's very strange. Jared, thanks for that, mate. I don't know what else to say, but thank you for that. Tell you what, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Alphabet Squadron for a little bit.
Okay,
because we both read it recently. Not to be confused with the Reddit where nightmares go to die. But if you come back after the break, you're in Spoiler Town. So this is your warning now. I'll give you a brief warning at the beginning of the next bit, and you'll be in Spoiler Town. But if you drop off here and come back when you've read Alphabet Squadron, we'll see you next week. Actually, we won't. Okay. So next week, I'm on holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be a TSW roundtable that was recorded recently, which will be going out to the patrons on Monday, this coming Monday.
Okay.
At the same time as this show goes out to the main feed. Mm-hmm. And then next week on the main feed will be the roundtable. So we get a week off because I'll be in another country, and thus recording will be difficult.
Well, not really.
Well, it's more difficult than I want it to be. So, and we've got this episode ready to go, and it's really good. So,
I mean, it's all right.
Yeah. So,
it's just most of me losing it so far.
So, if you drop off here because you haven't read Alphabet Squadron, you don't want spoilers, we totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening. Obviously, Talk Star Wars on all good podcast providers. Emotionally14.com for the website where you can find Talk Star Wars and all the Star Wars related things we do. Brad's at RealBreadHB on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Rob Wade Vision on Twitter and Instagram. And Talk Star Wars is at Talk Star Wars pretty much everywhere. Emotionally14 is at Emotionally14 pretty much everywhere. See you next week. After the break, Alphabet Squadron review.
Bye.
So welcome back. And if you're here with us now, this is your last warning. We are about to talk about Alphabet Squadron, and it's going to be spoilery because we kind of have to in order to talk about the book.
We do.
So if you are not ready to hear Alphabet Squadron spoilers yet, see you next time. You heard all the social media stuff before the break, and you stayed with us for the little bit afterwards. Bless.
No.
So, Alphabet Squadron.
Yes.
So this is a book by Alexander Freed, who I seem to recall, maybe not the most recent one he's done, but the one that I enjoyed the most of his was the Rogue One tie-in, Catalyst, I think was his.
Okay, yeah, it was.
Was it his or was that the Rogue One adaptation he did? Let me just familiarize myself as he... wow, his picture does not look like... Okay. Sorry, my mistake. He did the Rogue One adaptation. He's also done Battlefront Twilight Company and Alphabet Squadron.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I really liked Twilight Company. I haven't done Rogue One novelisation because I don't tend to bother with novelisations.
It's good, actually. Yeah, it's got the extra scenes that kind of give it a little bit of... it's a little bit more poignant when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it does kind of... It's a little bit... the best example I can give is, that bit in Rogue One where the small girl is crying and Jyn manages to bring her back to her mum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It takes it takes a small amount of pleasure, it seems, in reminding you that, no, she did. When the Death Star hits, it basically just goes, hey, you remember that girl that Jyn saved? Lol, no.
God, I hope that's verbatim.
It was pretty much. I mean, it's not a long chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Alexander Freed is known for, in more recent times, it's Battlefront Twilight Company, Rogue One, the adaptation. It looks like he might have had some input in the Battlefront 2 storyline.
Okay.
And Alphabet Squadron most recently.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, how did you find it overall?
I enjoyed it, but I found it very safe.
Okay.
It was... I liked some of the characters. I liked the interplay between them. All the characters kind of stood out individually enough. I was never confused as to who was who at any point. But there was just this vague sense that I'd seen this story a few times before, but couldn't tell you where exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of my take home from it. It was fine, but I just kind of felt it didn't really push anything, didn't really go in a new direction particularly. Yeah. Maybe part of it was it felt like a retread of the Rogue and Wraith Squadron novels from the old canon.
Okay.
Yeah, quite Wraith Squadron-y at times, I guess, without the humour. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favourite one.
I would agree with that.
Of the new canon. It was your, but the fact it was so... There was no surprises by the third act, really.
There was one that was obviously meant to... It seemed like it was meant to be a surprise right at the end, but I'd telegraphed it probably just before the beginning of the third act, because it became pretty apparent that character had not turned up at all yet in any other context and hadn't interlinked with the main group, which meant, okay, that means that he's that guy then.
Yeah, basically.
I realise I've just dodged around spoilers, but
we're nice like that.
Yeah, which is weird because we've just warned them we're not going to be, but maybe we're just...
we like to psych out our listeners.
We like to subvert expectations.
Yeah.
Isn't that the thing that everybody loves nowadays?
That's what Star Wars fans love. Yeah.
Exactly. So we follow, I guess it's pronounced Irika Quell. Throughout the story. She seemed relatively compelling as protagonists go, I thought.
Yeah.
An ex-Imperial who kind of... They did a good job, I thought, of bringing her story out over the course of the story. So her backstory didn't just get spilled out in one go. It was kind of layered in throughout, and it was a little bit... You'd find out little bits as you went along. So you found out that she was picked up from a planet. You found out that she'd defected. You found out that she'd always wanted to be a rebel. You found out...
Who was your fantasy cast for her?
I don't know. It's difficult when they put a picture on the front of the book.
It doesn't tend to faze me.
I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but the girl who plays... I think it's Martha in Doctor Who. Let me just remind myself of her name. I feel like it's Freema Agyeman. Yeah, so she's in Torchwood and Doctor Who. She played Martha Jones.
I went slightly older.
Oh, okay.
I went for Charlize Theron. I thought had the right kind of attitude.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I can see that. She kind of struck me as like maybe aged up. She might work as the as grandmother. They'd have to do prosthetic work to make her look older.
Kind of similar to her.
Yeah, but she's got that kind of
role.
Yeah, she's kind of got that. That kind of what's the word? Terse. Kind of expression. She can put that kind of terse expression on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of had it in my... Because it seemed from the front of the book that it was a black character.
Okay.
So that's I kind of steered that way when it came to sort of picturing her in my head because of the front cover.
It's weird. I know what you mean. I've just looked at Erica's Wikipedia page up. And yeah, that rendering does look African American, but it specifically states skin color light.
Yeah, but I mean, Freema Agyeman doesn't have, isn't Wesley Snipes.
It's a vague term.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it doesn't. Let's say light doesn't. Like let's say Freema Agyeman is not Wesley Snipes.
Exactly.
There's quite a different. What's the word?
It's not Bill Duke. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't seem like a big leap.
Yeah.
But let's say I thought as a protagonist I enjoyed kind of watching her journey unfold over the course of the story. There are other. So who's the other character? So there's is it Aiden, the spy?
Yeah.
The sort of the intelligence gatherer. He kind of, in my head, he was the guy who plays Justin in Event Horizon. I can't remember his name.
Okay.
He had that kind of look to him, or that mouse from The Matrix.
Okay.
And I can't remember his name for the life of me. His name is so annoying. Jack Noseworthy. There we go.
I mean, he's already in sort of the guy who plays
Mouses. No, I'm talking about Justin from Event Horizon.
Yeah.
He's as far as I know, he's not in there unless he's plays some sort of uncredited, not so much uncredited, but like a small scale role. But yeah, he was kind of the kind of character I pictured in that role. Because he seemed like he could work as a kind of slightly snidey, slightly kind of, below the belt, willing to sort of work surreptitiously and that sort of thing. He would suit that role quite well, I thought. So he's another one. I quite enjoyed him throughout the course of the story. He felt like those two especially felt very kind of three-dimensional as characters went.
Yeah.
I liked that, Quell was kind of always holding a little bit back when it came to her backstory, and the bit that she held back was the kind of the atrocities she'd committed, even though they're always implied because she was part of Shadow Wing.
Yeah.
They didn't really sort of make a point of really hammering that home until the very end of the story. And then I'm sure it's Aiden. He's kind of, he's a little bit sardonic and a little bit world weary and a little bit beaten down. But then over time, he starts to think, he starts to sort of lash out reflexively in terms of how he plots his espionage and stuff inside the Republic, because he's worried about being frozen out and being sort of having the credit taken away from him.
Yeah,
I quite liked that as a flaw, to kind of have that bit where he's just like he still can't see the big picture as like the team wins.
Yeah, I agree.
I kind of enjoyed that element of it. And then obviously Harrison Doula's in there.
Yeah,
it seems to me like you could just take the voice actress and put her in there. Vanessa Marshall, I want to say.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm not 100%. I'm going to double check as I'm saying this now. But it seems to me like you...
No idea what she looks like. I'll find out.
I think you can make it work. She's just coming up to 50. I think Hera would be kind of... she'd be on prosthetics anyway.
Yeah, Alphabet's War is only a few weeks after...
Jedi,
Scarif, isn't it?
So you're probably talking. She's probably in her 20s or 30s in Rebels.
Harrison Doula was born 29 BBY, so she'd be about mid to late 30s.
Yeah, so that seems like about right.
Yeah,
you can make that work, and she'd be wearing prosthetics anyway, so it wouldn't matter so much if she didn't quite look the right age. You can change that sort of thing all the time now. Do you remember that time when they brought Peter Cushing back from the dead? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yeah, I do.
I don't know why Pepperidge Farm remembers. It seems like a weird thing. Seems like it shouldn't even be their concern. And then the rest of the squadron is made up of, Nath Tenzin.
Yeah.
Who's the guy they go to recruit early on.
Yeah.
Who
did I have for him?
Annoyingly, I had the guy who played General Draven in Rogue One, but I can't use him because he's General Draven in Rogue One.
Yeah, that would be...
That sort of look was kind of where I ended up. But I can't think of anybody else. That was the best I had.
Yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal I had for him.
Okay. That's not a bad shout.
Yeah.
I can see that.
That kind of weary soul if you think kind of like the jarhead role.
Yeah. Plus also Jake's not in Star Wars yet and he's wonderful, so why wouldn't you just cast him everywhere?
Yeah.
Any chance you get, to be honest. Who else is there in the squad?
Will
Lark. He's a youthful, isn't he? He's quite sort of... He's got youthful exuberance on his side, so you'd need somebody kind of...
Will Poulter I had for him.
That makes a ton of sense. Either him or Nicholas Hoult would work.
Nicholas Hoult looks different in every film time I ever see him.
That is true, yeah.
He's so versatile.
Yeah. Will Poulter's got his, he's got that certain quality to him to a degree as well, I think. But I think, I could see... Let's go with... I would agree. Let's go with Will Poulter over... I just had his name. Well, I just said his name. Nicholas Hoult.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having a bit of a spacing out a little bit.
And Cheston Chaddock was the last one.
Cheston Chaddock. I mean, that one... I don't really know that you need anybody specific for that one. It kind of... It works.
Tessa Thompson for me.
I can see that.
Yeah.
In fact, actually thinking back on it, she'd work as Quell as well.
Yeah, totally.
Out of those characters, who did you kind of...
And of course, Kairos.
Oh, yeah, Kairos can be pretty much...
One. Yeah.
You could put Gwendolyn Christie inside that.
I think Doug Jones is normally up for that kind of stuff.
That works. The only thing I was wondering is, would he have the... It sounded like Kairos was quite hench, like the physique.
Yeah, I guess so.
You could put Gwendolyn Christie in there because she's got a good frame for that sort of thing, and she doesn't need to be...
The girl from Deadpool who's going to be in Mandalorian, whose name escapes me.
Gina Carano.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would also work.
Yeah.
Were there any characters that you really kind of gravitated towards in that squadron, apart from the main ones?
No, I think they were all pretty well balanced. You got a sense of all of them, and they were all unique as well. There was no confusing one character with the other.
Yeah. No, indeed. There was one thing that made me a little bit cross, and it wasn't so much it's not a huge deal breaker. It didn't ruin the story for me or anything. But is it Chas or Crass, the female who survived the Hellions Dare? That whole fiasco. She had this hero worship thing going on for Jyn Erso, which is cool. I like Jyn Erso. I think we all do.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the universal level of degree, but I think a lot of people view her quite fondly. But there was a line in it, and it could be written off as like character, as like a character opinion, which is fair. But they were talking about the Death Star.
Yeah.
And she says, Jyn Erso was the one who destroyed the Death Star. And somebody says, well, Luke Skywalker destroyed the Death Star. And she said, all he did was fire a shot. Jyn Erso did everything else, everything that mattered. I was like, hang on, that shot's pretty good. It was just one of those things where I just thought it struck me as a little bit, if it was kind of in character, that's fine. But otherwise it just felt a little bit petty.
Yeah.
And a little bit like minimizing the achievements of the George Lucas characters in favor of the stuff that they've created since. And just like a bit, ours is better, our dad's better than your dad kind of. And it just seemed unnecessary. Like I say, as a character thing, if you hero worship somebody, I could certainly see how you would, get yourself into that mindset of like, oh no, it's all Jyn Erso. But it just felt, if it was just a thing, it just felt inherently, it just kind of bristled a bit. Something about it just kind of struck me as a little bit over the top and unnecessary. But that's just I say that was just a throwaway thing, but it just kind of struck me as a bit weird. And like I say, it just seemed odd. And it seemed like a weird way of phrasing what you could have been easily like. You could say she had just as important a part to play, and that's totally fair because she does. She's the reason they're in the position in the first place. Great,
yeah.
She's the big enabler. You could say that too. But just the idea of like she's the only one who did anything that mattered except for one shot was like very dismissive of Star Wars.
Yeah, okay,
which seemed odd. But like I say, I'm sure it's probably nothing. It's probably just a character trait of. Keep spacing on the name Chas. Chas. What did you make of the line? There was a line where they were in, I forget which planet they're on, but they're at the temple, which is like being converted into a rebel hideout, where they're storing. Basically, they're hauling supplies back from there.
Yeah,
and they have all the lights winking on. Like basically, there's like a light show that happens in the temple that sort of shows the galaxy as it was, as it is now, and as it should be, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Kairos, the only line that Kairos ever delivers the only dialogue exchange, Kairos says, "The Emperor's shadow is long." Mm-hmm. Did you read anything into that as like any kind of foreshadow for Rise of Skywalker, or is it just one of those things of like?
I think it's. I don't think it's supposed to be anything to do with Episode 9. I think it is just a figure of speech. It's a bit meta, but I don't believe Mr. Freed would have been privy to any spoilers for something like Episode 9. And obviously the manuscript for this would have been turned in at least 6 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's coincidence.
Yeah, it could well be. It could also just be that, it's... just a line about the sort of impact he had on the galaxy when it's kind of flipping through all the different states. Yeah. It did strike me as an odd thing to write because presumably the only thing that would have been changed in the galaxy would have been that Alderaan was no longer in the lights.
Yeah, unless it was like marking out planetary alliances rather than just a physical map. It was a political map as well, is what I assumed.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah.
So someone like Mandalore has had its political state shifted quite a few times over the years.
Sure.
Because it was really obviously a free principality, and it was subjugated by the Empire for however long. As far as I know, we don't know what happened to it after the fall of the Empire.
Well, I'm guessing we're going to hopefully find out in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, so far we don't know.
No. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be that. I kind of interpreted it as a physical map, but you might be able to be right. Actually, maybe it's more like a timeline. Yeah, of like how things kind of came and went.
Obviously, Alderaan was blown up quite spectacularly, but there's quite a few bits for our Alphabet Squadron which kind of brought up how planets were kind of being mined to the point of destruction. The Empire would arrive on a planet, blast the atmosphere, and take everything it wanted and just leave. Yeah. So although these planets might not have been physically exploderized, they might still be death worlds now.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. And that would still kind of fit with the physical thing if it's like worlds that can't be lived on have been wiped out for all intents and purposes. That makes sense. Was there anything that really jumped out at you as like something you really, really enjoyed about the book?
No, like I say, it was all it was enjoyable in kind of a pedestrian type way. I enjoyed it while I was reading it, but I don't think a lot of it's going to stay with me. I don't think there was no big twist or surprise or anything like that. The visual that stuck with me, actually, there was a planet they go to, and it's quite a gaseous planet, and there's almost like echoes of space battles can be seen in the fog there. I could see that was quite a cinematic idea, the fact that there's just kind of these ghost battles going on because of how the dust particles are being shifted around years later. I liked that.
Yeah. Was there anything you really didn't like?
No, again, if anything I didn't like was how quite formulaic it was. I'm a little more forgiving of it now it's been revealed it's the first book of a trilogy, because coming out the end of it, I was like, that kind of felt like the pilot episode of a TV series. It's given us all the characters but played it quite safe. There was no big moments. So I'm a little more forgiving of it, knowing it is going to be used as a springboard to do more with these characters, hopefully.
Yeah, I didn't realise that it had been confirmed as a trilogy.
quite recently announced. Yeah.
Marvellous. Okay. Well, that makes some sense.
Mm-hmm. But with that, if they didn't know it was going to be a trilogy, if they were waiting on the success of this one, then I don't know, I feel like this could have done with a bit more oomph behind it at the end, rather than this kind of, let's establish some status quo so we can do another episode next week.
Yeah, I know it. I know what you mean. If it wasn't mapped out as a trilogy from the beginning, it doesn't seem like it ended with enough resolution. Yeah. There were still lots of loose threads dangling. So either they knew or they didn't end it well. I actually found the last act a little bit chaotic and a little bit hard to follow at times. Now, that may have been because I was trying to read it as quickly as possible so that we could talk about it.
Yeah, it's possible. That does seem to be a flaw that some of the new Star Wars books have. They seem to get very busy at the end.
I didn't have that with Master and Apprentice so much. I found
Master
that much easier
was an exception. Yeah,
I found that easier to get through as in terms of pacing.
That was a story in general, though.
Yeah, but then at the same time, I can't remember what was in it. This what's his name? Veros, wasn't it?
Yeah, Rachel Gould. That's it.
Yeah,
he was in it.
Yeah. It's. It was Rael Averross, wasn't it? The whole section of the plot to kill the Queen and sign the treaty and stuff.
Yeah.
Lots
of treaties in the prequel era.
It does seem to be, doesn't there? They're big on getting it written down.
Treaties and trade routes. That's what makes the Clone Wars exciting.
Yeah, just make sure everything's written down. They're big on admin, even then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't find with Master and Apprentice the same level of. I'm struggling here to keep up with with the description matching what's in my head. I was reading the words, but it wasn't kind of clicking for me in terms of being able to visualize it as much as previous books have been able to do. And I think that may have been my pacing, as in I was trying to read it faster than I was able to take it in.
I'm not convinced novels are the best format for space combat stories. It's certainly not dogfighting stories anyway.
That is a tricky one to balance, yeah. I quite like the notion of having the audio dramas to tell those stories. Because you can
if the dogfighting, it's going to want to be a visual medium, surely.
It helps, I think, but you could, if you followed one character, you could probably make it work.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, that was part of the problem. Was they were flitting between I think 3 or 4 different groups. So you had 2 pairs of 2, Quell, and then there feel like there was one more you were following. Oh, you were following inside the base as well with Nuress.
Yes.
While she was kind of dealing with stuff. I liked that the Wraith droids came back.
Yes.
And the fact that I was
cool
really intrigued at the end when the Wraith droid's been shut down since it delivered the message to deploy Operation Cinder. And she said, and basically earlier on they'd established that for Nuress, for everybody else they seem to just be stationary. For Nuress, it had come to life every now and then and just kind of shuffled around. And it was the end where it came to life and just kind of went up to her and nothing happened. I was so intrigued about what was going on there.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about what those Wraith droids represent, and maybe I'm hoping that that's how they're going to handle the Palpatine stuff in Rise of Skywalker. That maybe they take that form in some.
They've played on them a couple of times now.
Yeah, I'd like to see them turn up more as a method of relaying Palpatine's story.
Yeah, totally.
It just seems like a good way of getting that across in a way that doesn't break the. Doesn't break the law, Yeah. And it means you don't need to worry about the War Between Worlds, which I'd rather they leave with Rebels and don't do any more with.
Yep.
Yeah. So in terms of where it rates in comparison to the others, where would you approximately put it?
Of the ones we've reviewed on here.
Just in general.
So that's what we've done. We've done Master of... It's going to get increasingly tough. So what have we reviewed previously? We've previously reviewed Master of Apprentice, Jedi Lost, and there was another one we did as well. a solo novelisation. I'm sure there's another one we've done as well.
Yes.
There's got to be another one we've done, surely.
I don't know. I think it might just be the... I'm
sure we did one before with solo novelisation, surely.
I know we've read them.
Yeah.
I don't know that actually we have done another one. With Andy Claudia Gray? I don't think we have. I'm going to keep scrolling. Thrawn. Alliance.
Okay, yeah. The Thrawn one is probably my top one of the ones we've reviewed. Of the ones we've reviewed in this show so far, I thought this was the weakest, but that's more to do with generally the competition's been very strong.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked the solo novelisation, I didn't feel like the expanded edition was enough.
No, okay. So I discounted that, sorry. Yeah. It's better than solo novelisation, for sure. I liked Master of Predators a lot because it was a differently paced story. This felt like a retread of Rogue Squadron, which is why I would probably put it a bit lower than Thrawn Alliances and
fair enough.
Master and Apprentice.
Yeah.
And I think we'll agree Jedi Lost is at the top tier at the moment.
Jedi Lost is in that's the Dooku one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I almost confused it with Lost Stars. I know that's very highly regarded. I haven't read it.
Lost Stars is excellent, yeah.
Jedi Lost is one of my favourites, I would say, of the new ones they've done. I concur. I really like Thrawn Alliances. I would actually go as far as to say I think Catalyst is probably one of my favourites.
Oh, really?
If only because Krennic.
I read it before I saw Rogue One and haven't revisited it since.
Okay. So maybe it's one that be worth double-checking.
I'm going back to the beginning of the timeline, so I'll get there soon.
There you go.
It's about halfway through the Clone Wars in the scheme of things, isn't it?
That sounds exactly right, yeah. I think it starts... Because obviously it jumps around in timeline quite a lot, Catalyst, and it starts off in the middle of the Clone Wars, I want to say.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Okay, so it sounds like we're pretty much in alignment in terms of where we see it, because I'm kind of with you. Like, there wasn't any one thing that really jumped out at me, although I really liked the stuff with the Wraith droids.
Solid, but not earth-shattering for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. I think as a starter for a new series and some new characters to root for, I think it's good. Yeah. As a standalone book, I think it's a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah, fine. Sums it up.
Yeah, but like I say, I did find myself struggling to follow at times towards the end, because it was jumping around a lot, and because it, like you say, it's space combat in a book, and just because so I do think there may have been an aspect of me trying to sort of to make sure I was caught up,
rush through.
Yeah, and I will, I'm sure, at some point go back and give it another go. Whenever that happens, we shall see. Yeah, but there you go. In short, Alphabet Squadron is fine. And if you're so inclined to... Certainly if you're reading everything, it's
maybe
definitely worth it.
Maybe they're going to use that on the paperback print. Fine. Talk Star Wars.
I think if you're reading them all, let's be fair, if you're going to read them all regardless, it doesn't matter what we say.
No, absolutely.
If you're...
Thanks for underlining the futility of what we do.
Well, if you're looking for the best ones, I certainly would say wait for the paperback. Because there will be one. And because I think that the price for the hardback for a story like this is a little high, because it's good. I'd say it's good, but it's not so fantastic that I would have to go out and get it in hardback. I would say I could say you could easily wait until the paperback release, also, if not also because there's nothing coming out to accompany it. So there's no there's no pressing need, I don't think, to get this one really early on.
I think that's fair.
I think you can wait until the paperback comes out, and the price accordingly drops a touch. Because for me, like I say, it just seems like a little bit steep for the full hardback price for this one. Because I will say, to its credit, it never bored me.
No, that's very true.
And it's a long book.
It did feel, it was longer than the average Star Wars novel.
Yeah, I think it's 408 pages.
As long as sometimes we're barely clipping 300 these days.
Exactly, yeah. It seems so. It's quite a long one, and I will say to its credit, it never bored me. Having said that, actually, now that I think about it, there is one more thing I wanted to append. The comic in the middle, was a weird choice because it had no relevance to the story either side of it.
No, apart from Grandma, yeah.
But no, what I mean is it had the story it was in the middle of telling when the comic appeared in the book was nothing to do with that comic.
No, it was a weird marketing decision.
Yeah, well, that's why it was called Marvel Crossover on the front, right? Because it had the comic inside.
That's only going to confuse people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think that's exactly right. But yeah, I found it very strange to put it, not just to put it in there, but like I say, to put it in there in a bit of the book that didn't match the story being told at that point.
Yeah.
It seemed very peculiar to me to do that. I didn't really understand why they did that. Well, I suppose you need to put it in the middle, but I really don't necessarily think you need to put it in there in the middle at all. I think you could probably got away with putting it in at the end or the beginning.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, it was an odd decision.
Yeah, and I wasn't really on board with that one, if I'm honest. It seemed like an odd choice.
Yeah.
But I say it didn't bore me, and it was a long book. So to its credit, it's engaging, and as one of the longer books, it is, it's impressive that it can do that over that sort of scale. All right, so thank you for listening to our spoilerific review of Alphabet Squadron, the latest novel in the Star Wars canon, written by Alexander Freed. And thank you for listening to Talk Star Wars episode 175, the 175th episode of the Talk Star Wars podcast from emotionally14.com. If you've enjoyed the show and you've stuck with us for this bit, then I'm going to give you a slightly extended version of the usual end of show spiel because you've stayed with us till the end, and that seems only fair to reward you as such. If you've enjoyed the show and you wish to subscribe, we are available on all the good podcast platforms and some of the really rubbish ones as well. So including,
we're talking about that today.
Yeah, indeed. Including but not limited to, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on all the Android-based apps, we're on YouTube. I'm sure there are other apps that you can get us on. And if you cannot, if it's not there, then email podcast@emotionally14.com and let us know that it's not there, and I can do what I can to make that right. Because it seems nice to be able to put us in every position we possibly can be.
Absolutely.
We're also on Spotify as well, which is one of the really important ones that I think is worth mentioning. If you wish to submit questions to the show, I've just given the email address of how you can do that, podcast@emotionally14.com. You can also slide into our DMs on Twitter and Facebook. We're at Talk Star Wars on both of those. On Instagram, there's a Talk Star Wars account. I don't really use it much, but there's a few photos on there you can enjoy. And obviously, Talk Star Wars is part of Emotionally 14, as I mentioned at the top of the show and just now. And you can find the website where all of that magic happens on emotionally14.com. And you can see all the great podcasts we do, all the stuff we endorse, all the YouTube stuff, which I'm sure you're going to talk about in a bit more depth in a minute. Because I'm about to ask you where people can find you on social media.
If you want to find me, then one of the best places to find me, as well as doing this show, I also do Fire When Ready, Adventures in Star Wars Tabletop Gaming for emotionally14.com, which is us playing Legion, Armada, Rebellion, and most recently Outer Rim as well. You can find all of those shows on emotionally14.com, as well as Emotionally14's YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Instagram at FireWhenReadyUK and on Facebook now as well. If you want to follow me personally, you can add me on Facebook at facebook.com/BradHarmerBarnes, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RealBradHB, and you can, of course, buy my books through Audible and Amazon.
Yes, indeed you can. And you can access those on emotionally14.com in the Team E14 page. You can find a little link. And there's also often a link at the bottom of the Talk Star Wars podcast posts. So you can do that there. I should also mention that if you don't want to subscribe on a player and you just want to listen to the episodes at your leisure, there's a player on talkstarwars.co.uk that's always there and always will give you the latest, so you can just listen to your heart's content there. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing on social media, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision. Most of my tweets recently have been trying basically just to bother a particular crowdfunding company to give me my bloody money back. But if you want to follow that, then you can, at RobWadeVision on Twitter and Instagram. And if you're talking to the Emotionally 14 or Talk Star Wars Twitter accounts, at Emotionally 14 and at Talk Star Wars accordingly, then you're probably talking to me.
Hey.
The Talk Star Wars podcast is a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, But before I talk about that, I'm going to mention that we're also on Patreon. So if you want to make a contribution to help us meet our running costs, which are not significant but not inconsiderable, then you can do so by visiting patreon.com/talkstarwars. And in return for your contribution, which can be as little as $1 a month or whatever you care to donate, you will receive a link to a feed of the Talk Star Wars podcast, which is completely devoid of advertisements. Brilliant. So the only thing you hear is talking about the Talk Star Wars podcast, and that's us advertising ourselves, which it doesn't count. Perfect. So don't even write, because I won't entertain it. So patreon.com/talkstarwars is where you can get an ad-free version of the Talk Star Wars feed. That also drops a couple of days early. So if you're if you're basing it on UK time, it drops early on a Saturday morning, or late on a Friday night, or late on a Saturday afternoon if you're in other parts of the world on either side. Which I know a great deal of you are. So you can look forward to that on a Saturday morning at 6 o'clock UK time in the morning, and it speaks to the quality of our devoted listeners that we often find ourselves with a tweet saying how much they've enjoyed it by 8, which is incredible. Oh. Dan Thought, we love you.
You guys.
Yeah, I know, right? We love you all, but Dan Thought, we admire your dedication greatly. So patreon.com/talkstar was where you can do that. Plus, it's also, like I say, a nice way of helping us to meet our running costs and to keep us not having to sink any money into this beyond
what we have to.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, we are part of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Talk Star Wars is a proud member and represents Emotionally 14 in that space. But you can also enjoy other shows on there. So these are the outfits. I'm going to read them out. Talk Star Wars, obviously we know that one. We just did it. The Tumbling Saber Podcast, Generation X-Wing, The Nerd Room, The Rogue Squadron, San Diego Sabres Radio Podcast, Retro Inc., and the Sandcrawler Cast with Dan and Mike. So those are the 8 wonderful outlets that make up the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. And you can find all of the latest shows and links to all the podcasts on StarWarsCommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world.
Banging.
So thank you very much for listening to Talk Star Wars episode 175. Next week will be the special roundtable I mentioned. And then we'll be back the week after. So we'll be back on the 22nd with Talk Star Wars episode 176. So get your questions in. You have a little more time, and we will speak to you then. Until then, look after yourselves, look after each other, and may the Force be with you.